Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. There's a fella. Let's go along the beach, shall we? I can pick these pictures up almost at any point, and there's never going to be a time when I'm not in contact with it. However distant the actual making is, I'm not out of contact ever, because there it is. Every day I can walk out and it affects me. When I talk of the discipline of drawing, I'm not talking about something very complex. I'm talking basically about thinking not of depiction, not of skills of depiction. I'm taking you to think about what happens when you think about the retina onto which the world's been reflected, and which is the interface between the outside world and your inside brain, your inside visual memory. What happens when the world becomes stretched out across that and you're feeling the tensions from one place to another? Now, if it doesn't have those tensions, which almost nothing being produced at the moment does, then I don't think it's interesting. That's what I think painting does. You're stretched, because see, you're not like a bloody musician. You can't get a theme and take it through time, watching it develop, watching it change, changing the key. You can't do that. You've got any linear time. You're not like the novelist. You can't take a character from birth to death. You can't do it. It's all there, smack on the board. I was every day walking along the front here. And if you walk along the front like that, you might look at a boat, you might look at some tiny little moment of vision, but you can't do it for long because your eyes are stretching. You've got the whole horizon there, and you can't help it. Everybody who walks along there is looking like that and thinking, God, doesn't the sky change? The horizon stretches you. Every time I went for my walks, I was wanting to see more and more in the garden. I was adding new panels, physically adding new panels. So a 6 foot by 4 foot painting became a sort of 12 foot by 4 foot painting, and it went on until it became a 17 foot wide painting. My painting began changing so much that I had to rethink everything I was doing about the family painting. And I stayed there for the first year. And then people came for the summer to visit my parents, who were both then still alive. And they came as, people with children. And I began to use them in the painting, and I expanded the painting. And then they came year after year, and the painting grew. At the same time, that was me exploring how can you use perspective geometry to control the making of the painting, the image. It was also about how can you use it to hold time, because you've got a whole grid there, and you could plot these people as they changed, as they got older, as they grew, the whole circle of life that we are all interested in. could be held in this geometry, and I didn't find any other way it could be held. Because you can't have time, all you've got is space to act like time. I mean, Einstein's told us they're the same bloody thing anyhow. But I mean, to like time, so you could take your mind back into the space and out into space there, as well as across there and up and down. As the eye plotted the surface, the mind read the space. The Queen and the Duke both sat in the windows there for me to make small separate studies of them and to draw them, and they were very, very generous with their time. They gave me hours and hours and hours, and they would come about 7 sittings with each of them. Really terrific. I knew where I wanted to paint them because I'd already discovered it. I'd walked round and round Buckingham Palace till I found the white drawing room where Lavery had painted George IV. And I knew that was what I wanted. I want to parallel that picture for a 20th century contemporary painter. I kept going up to her saying, "Ma'am, could you just lean a little more here, a little more there?" And she was doing it. It meant looking a little hesitant perhaps, until her equerry rushed up to me and said, "Mr. Wonnacott, not even I touch the Queen." Grenfell has been enormously important to me. So I can't remember ever being so impressed at first glance by anything that I've set out to paint. It was a bit overwhelming. We walked all around Latimer Road. We walked past all the banks of photographs of the missing or dead children and the parents, and till we actually found a spot in the Kensington Leisure Centre in the front open area by the cafe, where you had a direct view of the tower, with just metal fencing that had been put up by the police between us and the tower. And once I'd seen that, I'm afraid that was it. The tower was completely covered up by, I think, November. And I just didn't feel I could carry on with them. I wasn't going up there to see it because I didn't even want to see it with all that covering over it. It no longer meant anything at all to me. And I didn't know what to do. I was starting to try and work in the garden again. Nothing was working. And then as we came towards Christmas and going past Harrison's, the butcher's up in the Broadway, he had this extraordinary goose hanging in the window. And I took it home and I hung it up between 2 easels just here. Cruciform between 2 easels, hung by the neck and by the wings, and I had a subject that I could take on. I suppose I invested it with some of the feeling of Grenfell. It was both a crucifixion and it was about a ridiculous accidental death. It was all those things, and of course just a marvellously striking image. There's something about this bit of the Thames. It ends at the Crowstone, which you'll see in a lot of my pictures. That, at least I believe this is right, is where the Port of London Authority ends and the North Sea begins. I hope that's correct. That's what I've always believed. And of course we have the great tankers going up to Tilbury, going past outside. We have the fishing boats following the creeks along and going back to the old town. We have Southend Pier, which hits across the horizon back there. And the thing is, the theatre, the visual theatre of this Thames thing is extraordinary because, being an estuary, the tide goes out so far. You've got 2 tides coming in a day. You've got it incredibly rapidly. You've got this pattern of creeks, and when the light shines off the mud there, it can be silver, it can be blue, it can be almost anything. But it is extraordinary. And then you just have the intricacy of creeks and mud flats and things going around there, where, as kids, because I used to come here all the time when I was a kid as for holidays, and my own children and nephews and nieces and every young person I know goes out there to the middle and plays on those mud flats and creeks. And one of my pictures I've called The Battle, because it made me think of my grandfather in the trenches, because these kids would hide down in these terrible depths and then throw mud at each other and run. And there's that excitement of of children playing war games out there in that wonderful.
1005, rising more slowly. Stornoway, west by north 4, 12 miles, 1000, rising more slowly. Lerwick, east by south 1.
Well, I think I'm one of the luckiest men alive, and that I discovered painting very young, when I was about 13, 14, that I've painted all my life, and that coming to live in Lee on this incredible estuary, that I've been given an experience that has allowed me to paint in a way and to find things that I don't think I could have found in any other way.
West-southwest 3, 16 miles, 1001, rising slowly. Boomer, southwest 4, 24 miles, 1003, rising slowly.